Startup Experts is a 1,000 plus member organization of finance, ops, and HR leaders that come together in person and online to build relationships, to learn from one another, and to support each other personally and professionally. While no one member is an expert in all things, collectively our combined experience is extraordinary and our passion for learning is unparalleled. This podcast is about amazing people, their perspectives on our ever-changing world, and more specifically, how we adapt to these changes as leaders. My name is Jesse Fries, and this podcast is about becoming better with Startup Experts. All right, Diane and Jamie, so nice to see you here today. Happy to welcome you to the Becoming Better at Startup Experts podcast. Diane, maybe would you introduce yourself first, and then we'll go to Jamie?
Hi, my name is Diane Sadowski-Joseph. I am the co-founder and head of product at ApplyAI, an AI transformation company. And my background is in leadership, learning and development, and behavior change, and of course, more recently, AI. And I come from both working inside organizations and startups as an executive and leader, and also working with startups to help them on their behavior change and transformation journeys.
Great. Let's pass it to Jamie.
Jamie Nichols. I'm part of the starting team at ApplyAI, and I lead client experience. Like Diane, I have over 10 years of experience helping growth startups with their L&D and organizational change initiatives. And I have experience as a leader inside these startups, driving them from the inside out.
Diane and Jamie, I've known you for a number of years and really excited that the two of you have come back into my life as leaders of Apply AI. I know here at Startup Experts, we've launched our AI learning journey. But tell us a little bit more about why did you start Apply AI?
Yeah. So when large language models, aka ChatGPT, burst onto the scene in 2022, both my co-founder and I were really blown away by how these models could reshape the way we work and create value. But it was also a little scary, right? It's really clear that this is a very transformative technology, and that it's poised to really disrupt a lot of things. It's kind of like every company on the planet is about to go through some version of a reorg. And so the impetus behind Apply AI is how do we help all of that happen more smoothly? And ultimately, our mission is to help humans thrive in the new AI era by giving as many people as possible the working knowledge of AI to confidently shape our shared future in a direction that is good for humanity.
Yeah. And even in the last year or so, when AI started to become this thing we heard more and more about, it's changed so much. So I imagine, you all as a company have changed a lot and plan on changing a lot as this industry evolves. Would you share a little bit about how you've navigated that so far?
Absolutely. It's so true. Sometimes we start our day by saying, okay, wait, what are the latest AI updates that we need to be aware of today? It's really a wild industry, but in terms of the company and how we've evolved, we started out by offering straightforward AI training, even though we knew that there are many other parts of the equation that were required to drive the type of transformation and value that we wanted to see. But we just weren't sure if organizations were thinking about it in that way. And it turns out they are. But lesson number one is that sometimes it requires a costly mistake to realize that they need help in this process. So our product evolved to support that. We now include AI coaching for executives, facilitated strategy sessions, and hands-on transformation enablement. And so our goal really is to help companies be proactive about this from the get-go instead of waiting until something bad happens. But this leads me to the other big lesson. And honestly, a little training goes a long way. And I've seen people go from barely use it, what is this thing? I'm terrified of this thing, to, oh, this is my best friend. I now save 5 hours a week after a few hours of training. And so it's all about getting that flywheel spinning.
Yep. No, that's so true. And certainly in my life, I've seen that I'll have a conversation with an HR leadership team and, they're not all that interested until, you talk to them 6 months later and things have gone sideways. So I can relate to that on many levels. In terms of your organization, it's such a new industry, and I imagine providing training on new industries and new tools what sets Apply AI apart? And, how are you thinking about offering AI training?
Yeah. So I think we come at it from a deep expertise in both AI. My co-founder, he actually has started his own AI and machine learning company in the past. We've got some amazing, really AI fluent advisors. But we also come at it from the lens of behavior change, business operation. Fundamentally, AI is the next change in a wave of other changes. And so, we're trying to really think about the whole organizational ecosystem in our approach, right? So it's not just about teaching people how to use this particular tech or this particular feature. It's what business value are you driving with AI? What does it take to make every employee AI fluent? What does leadership need to navigate decisions about AI given how rapidly it changes? And another really important one is what behavior change is required to actually get ROI from any sort of investment in AI. And so our goal ultimately is to get you further faster than you get on your own. You could figure this out on your own, but why waste time and money? Let you focus on your own business. We'll help you get further faster and build the lasting habits, future forward skills, and help your organization ultimately thrive in the age of AI.
Yeah, no, I feel it's an interesting point in the industry where we're hearing so much about it and so many individuals are interested about it, but there has to be some degree of evangelism to use it or to use it comfortably. And I see that tug and pull a lot in the conversations I've had. And certainly, with my daughter who's 17, she wants to use it, but she's hearing from her instructors not to use it. But yet we all know that that's the future and we have to lean in.
Yeah.
And, it's an interesting point in this evolution of AI. And I appreciate your team leaning in and, kind of evangelizing the use of AI and particularly instructing people on how to use it. Why are you so passionate about AI?
I think it's all about the potential and how that potential is just expanding by the minute. And I think this is the biggest change that we've seen. When I first started school, I remember going to research in encyclopedias and in libraries, and then that shifting to the internet and how big of a change that was. And then now we don't even think about it. And AI is another version of that, but at a much bigger scale. And so I saw that technical evolution happen firsthand. And this is beyond anything that I've seen. And I know what that did for me. So the potential of what this can do for me in the world is pretty wild.
Yeah, no, I think that's very interesting. I actually was last weekend. I was visiting a cabin in Shasta, and there was an old encyclopedia on the shelf, and I kind of pulled it off, and I felt like I'd gone back, 30,
Right?
40 years. But you're right, because I got a post this morning on LinkedIn from a woman who's been playing with the newest AI model from ChatGPT, and she said, you ask a bunch of stuff. 10 minutes later, you have pretty much a doctoral thesis that comes back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's as good as you'd pay any junior researcher at your company to produce. So the world has changed so much in our lifetimes. I'll pass it to Diane. Why are you so passionate about AI?
Yeah. Similar to Jamie, this is a really significant shift. Like the advent of the internet, right? In terms of impact on not just work, but the world. And so what really excites me is giving everyone kind of the tools to be in the driver's seat for this transformation. Because as we know, not just from AI, but from other recent transformations, every innovation is a double-edged sword, right? It has the power to amplify the good, but it also has the power to amplify kind of the less savory parts of our society, inequality, volatility, insecurity. And so to me, it's really important to help people quickly understand what this technology is, what it's not, what it's capable of, what it's not, so that everyone can really come to the table and shape our collective future from a place of confidence and knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And thank you for sharing. Jamie, in terms of AI, what do you think are the biggest misconceptions you're seeing right now? And how does your team help change those?
Yeah. Number one is thinking that AI is just a technology and that is alone the solution to their problems, when really, like we just said, AI is a fundamental shift in how we operate in the world. It's truly transformational. And so that means to leverage it as a solution, it requires a lot more to support that change. We see this in organizations. They think, okay, I'm going to buy this AI tool. Check, we're done. Everybody's more productive. But I see you two laughing because we've all been behind those changes and know that it takes so much more than a tool. And tech fatigue is real. And if you're just focusing on the tools, you're just going to be dealing with a lot of logins. So that's really one thing that we help companies with. And we help them think about that ecosystem that needs to be changed and supported. And the second thing is underestimating the power of time savings, compounding time savings. So shared earlier how after just a few hours of training, we've seen people save more than 5 hours a week. And if you think about that, if every single individual on your team were saving 5 hours a week, that's huge. And then if every single person in your company were saving 5 hours a week, that's even bigger. And so that's a big change you can make with shifting small behaviors instead of just trying to build a new mountain from scratch.
Yeah, so true. I mean, we're always seeking operational efficiency within organizations, and we usually talk about, kind of this 1% a day, and trying to get that flywheel. And, in my lifetime, I see AI as being able to significantly increase. I know personally, I use AI on a daily basis, and I found much more than 1%.
I just want to add a little bit of math for the data people out there. Like, let's say you're not even saving 5 hours a week. Let's say you're saving 4 hours a week. 4 hours a week, 48 weeks a year, because we're generous, we give vacation. Times 200 people in an organization, that is 38,000 hours saved in 1 year, which is the equivalent of 4,800 8-hour workdays. So that's what I mean when we say compounding time savings is like, imagine what your organization could do with an extra 4,800 days.
Amazing. Yeah, my head hurts thinking about that.
Right.
Jamie, you mentioned educating users, and I think this is a great segue to talk a little bit about the ApplyAI learning journey that we're hosting here at Startup Experts. But in particular, before we get to that, when we hosted the session, and Diane did a great job leading that session a couple of weeks ago, there was this talk around AI and thinking of it as a template or sort of enabling users to lean in and adopt AI and not think of it as something they shouldn't be using.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesse. I was coined a little term inside ApplyAI. We call it FOGI. So you've heard of FOMO, fear of missing out. There's also FOGI, which is fear of jumping in. Notice that a lot of people have FOGI when it comes to AI. And I think there are a couple of reasons. One aspect of FOGI is overwhelm, right? Feeling like, oh, I can never know enough to feel like I can wrap my head around that. And that's very real and very valid. And to that, I would say no one feels like they know enough. So this is the world has imposter syndrome on this one. So like, just get started because working knowledge is more valuable than kind of intellectual knowledge on this one. The other thing that really can get in the way is feelings of kind of guilt, for example, of like, does this mean, if I use AI for this, am I not doing my job, right? That type of thing. And I think to that, I would say AI is a tool. And just like any other tool, you want to use the best tools to get the best results. And if AI gets you there further, faster, then use it, right? And don't feel bad about it, right? You wouldn't feel bad about using an Excel spreadsheet to do calculations, even though that's not the way that was done 50 years ago. So don't feel bad about using AI to get you to a great first draft 10 times faster than if you hand wrote it. So those are the two things that I would say on the FOGI front is don't worry about knowing enough, just jump in and get started. And in terms of guilt, think of this as a tool like any other.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Well said. And I'll have to start using this Foji concept. And certainly, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, frankly, we started the AI learning
Yeah.
journey was to kind of get people jumping in and embracing
Mhm.
this. We know Startup Experts, 2,000 members, 2/3 are women. And we know that, if you look at the data, those are the individuals that are hesitant to jump in. So I'm really proud that, we were able to pull together as a team the ability to provide, an AI learning journey. Super appreciative of the two of you by willing to provide it to our group and to the greater community. Would love to get your perspective on why. Why is this important to you?
Yeah. I can take that. And then I would love to hear Jamie's take too. Is, I mean, I think the thing that feels so personal to me is I I am not a tech early adopter, or let's put it this way, AI is the first tech that I am
Yeah.
any sort of enthusiastic adopter of. And I think that it has actually been so empowering to feel wow, I am now understanding this tech at a level that allows me to feel like I can really have a say, right? Or I can have a seat at the table. And I think that that's one of the reasons that keeps people from adopting, or women in particular from adopting AI, is that historically women have not really been encouraged to be in kind of the more tech heavy functions, right? It's more of the qualitative functions, the people, the soft skills, right? And AI is, particularly with large language models and natural language processing, now all of those human skills that you've developed on great delegation and nuance and all of that, now all of a sudden that can translate into technology really, really easily. And so I'm particularly excited, one, because it allows people to feel more enthusiastic about tech in general. Like I find myself more curious about even non AI tech now that I feel like, oh, I can do this, right? Like I can work with tech without it feeling like it's defeating me. And it's also the case where AI can allow skills that have historically been really undervalued and underappreciated to start to become more important because it is going to be about the nuance going forward now that everyone has this kind of magic wand in their pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right on. Jamie?
Love that. Yeah, to add what you're saying about the gender gap in AI adoption, there's research around the confidence gap and how that impacts men and women differently at a broad data scale, and how lack of confidence leads to inaction more commonly in women because of so many factors, but socialization around not being able to make as many mistakes, less flexibility there. And so when I think about AI, we're actually all starting at a similar playing field with this technology. And so this feels like an opportunity to say, you know what? Step aside confidence gap. Like we're going to jump in now and build the same confidence and experiment and try because we're all in it together as a society. So that excites me. But then on the other side of things, not to be all doomsday, the reality is like this is happening, and it's cliche to say AI skills aren't a nice to have. They are essential. And this change is happening whether you like it or not. So the sooner you jump in, the more agency you have over the role it plays in your life and what you're able to do with it. So I see that, both as we're talking about the gender gap in adoption, but then also organizations and then how you're leveraging in your personal life. It's like the time is now. Feels dramatic and it's true.
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand that. Let's dig into that a little bit because it's very different to use it, on the home front and to, build a shopping list and sort of in this playdom area, where like, oh, I'd like to research a trip or tell me the
Mhm.
cool restaurants in my neighborhood. Like that seems a little bit more gimmicky, but when you actually bring it into a professional workplace, suddenly there may be some risks associated. But to your point earlier, Diane and Jamie, about the operational efficiencies that a company can gain. How do you coach up senior leaders at an organization to build it into their culture and to give employees permission to use it, but also do it in a responsible way in which there are guardrails.
Yeah. So I'll speak to the a little bit to risk and governance, but then I'll share advice that's kind of even more generalizable. So on the risk and governance front, I think a lot of people like there's a very experienced AI lawyer that we work with. And one of the things that she is saying is that basically people overestimate the risk of applying it to your internal operations and underestimate the risk to applying it to your products. And so what she means by that is basically we already are sharing our company secrets with Microsoft and Google and so on and so forth. And so, so I think it's more of just, okay, what do you need to feel enough trust to be able to work with AI the same way you work with Google Suite and Copilot and Salesforce, right? Like, what do you need to see in their contracts to feel that level of trust? But then what she means by on the product side is, okay, if you're using AI to say gather information on your customers and monetizing that somehow, then that's a separate animal, right? Like that's something that's more in the kind of data privacy and so on arena. So I would kind of split track the governance side into kind of internal risk versus external risk. And ultimately, it's kind of like way back when everyone was like, don't ever give a website your credit card information. And now we're like, you want me to actually look it up? Can't I just push a button? I feel like that's where we're going. And so it's just a matter of figuring out like, all right, what is the most responsible way to get there?
Yeah.
So the other two things are for leaders who want to create a culture that embraces AI is transparency. So public transparency about its use and its intent, right? I mean, almost every organization, employees are using AI already, but no one's talking about it, right? It's kind of this like hush hush, right? I've heard it termed as like shadow usage, right? And so if you want people to use it responsibly, make it visible, bring it out into the light. So one super easy way that you could do this in your next meeting, pull up your AI window, your ChatGPT, your Copilot, whatever, and do a group brainstorm together with AI on your shared screen, right? So role modeling what good usage looks like is a great way of doing that. Another thing is being transparent about its intent, right? Is the intent to improve efficiency? Is the intent to replace, right? Like these are the kinds of things where people will make their inferences either way. So you might as well talk about them. And then the other really big thing is to kind of to Jamie's point about the confidence gap is celebrate the learning and the process of learning, not just the outcomes, right? So small AI wins, even if they're imperfect, is really vital to keep people experimenting with it rather than focusing on we only like AI when it does exactly what we hope it will do. So celebrate learning, create that learning culture. One of my favorites is an organization created an AI fails Slack channel where they share kind of their whoopses and their misses with AI. And not only is it a mood booster, but it normalizes the fact that we're all in this learning together.
I'd actually like to add one thing to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was talking to a client recently, and their fear was that they wanted AI to be used as a productivity tool and not as a distraction. And because of that, they were afraid to shine the spotlight on AI and kind of push it under the rug and say, okay, like we're giving you this tool, but the more attention we put on it, the more likely it could be a distraction.
Yep.
And I actually think that the right approach is to say, nope, like Diane said, you need to acknowledge it and be pretty explicit about how you want people to use it. Create a set of responsible usage guidelines that fits within those intents.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a really interesting concept about the shadow usage, because as you're talking about that, and you mentioned this later in your comment about, companies look at outcomes, and so we celebrate outcomes. Many people on employee teams are rewarded, they're compensated on outcomes, right? So using the tool set that you have available, which in this case is part of that would be AI in general. Apply AI for sure, right?
Yeah.
But like using the tools that are available, it's like those folks that are most innovative and therefore will have the greatest outcomes are already using it, whether they're admitting to it or not. And so making it more, well known and embraced with an organization, I think needs to happen. Like Jamie, you alluded to this. We just have to acknowledge that AI is going to be adopted broadly and be a changing force in business.
And I'll just build one little thing on that, which is a lot of organizations are so focused on mitigating risk that they only talk about how they don't want people to use AI, and they forget to tell employees how they actually want them to use it. And so that's another thing that if you are looking to increase adoption and experimentation with AI, don't forget to say, and we're hoping that you're using AI to do XYZ. Because that sort of explicit permission is really important to create psychological safety around the use of AI in the workplace.
Yeah, it goes back to phrasing, which I know both of you have probably used many times. It's better to train somebody, have them leave than not train them and have them stay. Very similar mentality here. It's like, here is AI, please use it.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, so you all are working with a lot of clients now and having a lot of these conversations. Would you share a story or two how a training or something that you've instructed a group of people has fundamentally changed what they're doing today?
Yeah. Jamie, I would love to take this one if that's okay with you.
Please.
Mostly because I'm just like, I'm so proud of it. I'm like a proud mother hen. So there's this company that we work with on kind of the full suite of AI transformation. They were really, really keen. And so we started kind of this multi-month program with them. And we're only partway through, but already they're seeing 70% of employees saving meaningful amounts of time.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing. Like it's even further ahead of schedule than everyone hoped. But one thing that's really cool is there's been this unexpected side effect in that it has energized people to share things cross-functionally. So historically, this company has struggled with silos, as many companies do. And basically one of the leaders was like, yeah, like there's been this excitement for solving these problems that have been around for years. But because of this kind of fresh take and this like fresh set of tools, everyone's pumped to like try to actually solve these things. And so as a result, they're actually co-building kind of these internal GPTs and agents that infuse the wisdom of this cross-functional perspective. And they're already seeing their customers benefit from it. And so that to me beautifully illustrates like that, like when people and momentum and AI come together, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts in so many ways.
Yeah.
And it illustrates the power of AI to free up mental capacity.
What AI trends are you seeing right now?
And yeah. I mean, I'm sure if you were to quickly search in your inbox, you would see AI agents many, many times. They are the next big shift. These systems will handle really complex multi-step tasks that require judgment across multiple platforms. It's pretty big. It's kind of scary. And so what this means is it's going to fundamentally shape roles and how job roles look and what's required of them in the workplace. And it's going to require professionals to shift from just task execution to AI orchestration, which is a different set of skills. Basically, everyone gets an expert intern now. So people are going to need oversight and delegation skills much earlier in their career. We usually think of those things as happening later when you're a manager. But with this AI agent intern, you're going to need that from the get-go.
What does that mean for individuals coming out of college? I saw a post recently talking about the ability to research, the ability to do a lot of that traditional internship work, but now it really is just how well do you know your prompts? How well do you how can you embrace these tools? Do you have a perspective on what does this mean for this next class of hires that suddenly we have AI that's competing for their job?
Oh, but do I, Jesse? I got perspectives on everything.
Let's go on the record here. Tell me about it.
Be careful what you
Yes.
wish for, Jesse.
I know. So first of all, I think what is really fascinating is I actually spend a fair amount of time on college campuses. And one of the things that I've noticed is college students are already using AI in a very fluid, like they've already integrated it into their workflow. So this doesn't represent a significant change for them. I think what it means for it's not even so much what it means for college students entering the workforce. It's what does it mean for employers employing these?
Mhm.
Because basically their strengths and their gaps are going to be different than from previous generations, right? Where like a lot of us who came up and got good at things by doing were really strong executors, but maybe lacked some of those oversight or delegation skills that we had to hone early on. They're potentially coming into the workforce with better kind of delegation and oversight skills, but they may not have the type of kind of visceral instinct or understanding that comes from having built the thing from scratch. Right. And so I think that's where like some of the things that I think are really critical to train people on, for example, to develop as early as possible in your career are skills like one we call problem precision, getting really good at understanding like what is the thing that I'm solving for before we like throw a bunch of energy and effort towards it. Because that's one of those like we hone that through experience. But previously in a more resource constrained environment, you had to think a lot about it because you just didn't have the resources. But now everyone has this magic wand. You need to make sure that you know exactly where and why you're pointing the wand before you point it. Otherwise, you end up in kind of this like spinny time wasting place. So I think it's one for employers understand what sorts of opportunities do I need to provide my employees to get kind of maybe more of the like hands-on, fingers in the dirt kind of experience so that they can hone their instincts. Um, and two, for kind of the people coming up into the workforce, it's how do I level up my own strategic thinking skills from the get-go? Because that knowing how to ask the right questions, knowing how to think about the consequences of your actions, those are going to be gold, right? Coming into the workforce.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting that you hang out a lot on college campuses. Maybe
It's
that's
you're
for
making
another podcast, another interview.
I was taking a class.
What's interesting about that, right, is like, all right, so you've got college age kids and hopefully high school age kids once they get to college, start becoming, very experienced, very comfortable with AI. And then we have, folks that are already in the professional workforce that don't have that intermixing, they're kind of a little more siloed because they're working for a company. They're not learning from their peers as much, which is in part why we have you all and startup experts and learning. But maybe I'll direct this to Jamie. Like, how can leaders prepare their organizations and in turn, their employees to get up to speed? Knowing that other companies are doing it. Certainly, those folks that are most innovative are pushing their companies today to become AI proficient. But you also have this wave of individuals coming out of colleges and universities, which are going to be Uber users and just ready to go.
Yeah. Great question. And I would say three things. So number one, Diane just talked about this set of skills that I'll call AI enabler skills. These factor into how people use the technology, and they're not necessarily technology skills though. They are problem precision, metacognition, which is really how are you thinking about what you're doing and how self-aware are you? Strategic thinking, effective delegation. So some of these gaps are going to be bigger, for people who are just adopting the technology, but then also people who have already used the technology working backwards to get into the work world. I think they're important across the board, different use cases though. And then the second one is supporting that company-wide hands-on learning and knowledge sharing. So beating that ROI drum, AI only gets ROI if people are using it well.
Yeah.
And in order for people to use it well, they need to learn the habits, the mindsets, the skills not just of how to use the tools, but how to continuously optimize and how to talk about these skills, how to share with each other. So we call that conversational capacity.
Got it.
And then third, it's really important for leaders to get clear on the value you're trying to drive with AI. What I mean by that is everyone will have AI capabilities. The difference is how you infuse AI into your business strategy. And that's really where you're going to stand out.
Yeah, no, love that. That's a good perspective. You mentioned mindset in your answer there. What is one mindset that you would like to shift with professionals?
Yeah. So one thing that I've seen from really studying kind of the AI super users, so people who are saving 30% or more of their time with AI, getting amazing results, is they're all really good at one thing that Jamie already said, which is metacognition. This idea of thinking about their thinking. So it's not just doing the thing, but thinking, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What's getting in the way? What are my friction points? What would better look like? And I think that to me is, in addition to thinking of AI as kind of, all right, this is my talented expert intern who can help me with things, it's also thinking like, what's the why behind the what that I'm doing? Because that is going to help you better understand how to leverage and where to leverage technologies like AI in ways that are even more additive than your average use case.
Hmm. So to give that a real world example, use it to draft emails and communications, but the why is to increase, outbound marketing or increase your brand recognition, or
Yeah.
like think about the fundamental reasons of why you're doing it.
And so I can give you two kind of quick examples. One, and you just alluded to one, which is part of what we call the ApplyAI prompt trifecta, which is role goal questions. So the first is this idea of the goal of like, I'd like you to write me an email. And it's like, and the purpose of the email is to,
Right.
like get people to reply with interest in my product, right? So that's a really important one, and linking up to like what is the higher level goal. The other thing is just thinking about, I think a lot of people, you get into the habit of using AI for certain things and you forget to think about how might it be helpful for other things. And so this is a process that we call finding the friction. So it's more like, how do you get into the habit of noticing, like, I'm stuck, my like, oh, like I can't get over this hurdle, or et cetera. And then going to AI before you necessarily understand exactly how it's going to fix your problem, because that's where you start to discover new things, right? So that's what we mean by metacognition. It's not just understanding the goal of tasks. It's also being aware of, when am I not working at the level that I want to be working, and what's getting in the way, and could something like AI be helpful in that capacity?
Got it. And Microsoft won the war there because theirs is named Copilot, of course.
I know that they do win for best name.
And actually, I'd love to add on to what Diane said. This is why I think AI usage is pretty personal, and it's going to look different depending on who you are and how you work, which is why starting with the mindset shifts is so fundamental instead of just starting with the tactics of use cases. Because I have different strengths and energizers and frictions than Diane has. So I like to use AI to really fill in those friction points and replace those. But I want to keep my strengths. So I actually love editing emails. But you know what I do not like is turning a list of bullet points into something that makes sense to someone else.
Yeah.
So I will let AI do that for me. But then I want to go in there and I want to like nitpick. Diane might feel differently. And so it's a personal thing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I created a GPT called Shorter because I'm too long-winded and it takes too much work for me to take this much text and turn it into something people actually want to read. And so that's
Right.
that's how it works for me.
You should share that out. I could take advantage of that for
Oh,
sure.
happy to. You can find it in the ChatGPT GPT store. So
That's great. I've really enjoyed this conversation. This has been absolutely wonderful. And of course, I'm personally appreciative of you both participating in the Startup Experts AI learning journey. Would you share how people can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. You know what? You can email me directly. That is Jamie@applyai.pro. Jamie spelled JAMIE and applyai.pro. Or you can find us on LinkedIn. Our website is applyai.pro.
Amazing. Any final thoughts or insights you'd like to share before we depart?
Don't forget to have fun with this tech. It's cool. It's just cool. So as much as we think about what are the implications? Is it this and that? Let's all just take a collective moment to be like, whoa.
That's awesome. Brilliant. Thank you both. And I've really enjoyed the time today.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks so much, Jesse.
I hope you enjoyed the previous discussion. If you are interested in learning more about Startup Experts and potentially becoming a member, please visit www.startupexperts.us. The community was created over 5 years ago for finance, ops, and HR leaders to meet, share knowledge, and support one another. Since we all work cross-functionally together in-house at our respective companies, we believe that it's incredibly valuable to have a community where we can also learn each other's perspectives. This podcast, Becoming Better with Startup Experts, will in part explore these roles and how we can effectively work together.